Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm Andrew Capistrano, visiting research fellow here at the Institute of Geoeconomics. And here on Geoeconomic Insights, we're honored to have Nobukatsu Kanehara to join us. Mr. Kanehara served as Assistant Chief Cabinet Secretary to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe from 2012 to 2019. In 2013, he became the inaugural Deputy Secretary General of the National Security Secretariat, a role that he held until his retirement from government service in 2019. He also served as Deputy Director of the Cabinet Intelligence and Research Office. Mr. Kanehara's role at the Cabinet built on a distinguished career at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we're very happy to have him here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, as you mentioned, Abe was quite instrumental in shifting the narrative when it came to the Indo-Pacific, when it came to the Diamond Security Alliance, which became the Quad, Free and Open Indo-Pacific, which was his terminology. So you were working with Abe at this time. So do you see this as a decisive turning point in Japan's strategy facing outward?
Yes, because after the end of the Cold War, our domestic Cold War ended, but still the division remained. And the LDP governments always tried to strengthen our alliance with the Americans. And Americans are now no longer suspicious of Japan's intention. The great Japanese empire, this great East Asia, we don't have that any longer. We are staying with junior partners, sustaining this order in Asia. And their intention today is, except nuclear weapons, please do everything to help Americans in the region. And this is where we are. But still, the division remained. The Abe is the first prime minister who was born after the destruction of Japan. He doesn't know anything about the imperial soldiers. He never saw that. He doesn't know the poverty, and he doesn't know the racial discrimination in Europe and the United States. He was the first leader born where after the liberal order expanded globally, and he just accepted, I'll be the leader of that. And he's the first one who said clearly that I am the leader of the West. Nakasone said that in the first time, but he was still fighting against the leftists in the domestic context. Abe had still enemies still. For Japanese leftists, Marxists, he's existential threat because Abe-san denied them.
Yes.
But he showed that he was fighting against them because this is the direction where Japan should be headed for. And he showed that. But he invited fierce attack from the enemies domestically. But fighting gave him power because he believed that he was doing the right thing.
So to what extent do you think Kishida has followed on Abe's foundation?
Kishida-san is in the function of Yoshida. Abe-san's grandpa is Kishi.
Yes.
These are two founders of Japan-US alliance. Japan, in 1950s, Japan was still very much socialist in mood. It's very difficult to bring Japan in alliance with Americans. These two were heavily attacked by leftists. Very unpopular, Yoshida Kishi. But they stood. And Kishi's grandson is Abe, and Yoshida's grandson is Aso. And the Yoshida's faction split into two. That's Aso faction and Kishida faction. And Aso is in the bloodline of Yoshida. Kishida is the sort of political heir of this faction. And they are very close. And so Kishida-san is implementing Yoshida's line, but the Kishida-san is more dovish. He is very popular among senior people, senior intellectuals. They love Kishida-san. Abe-san was Kishida's bloodline. He's a fighter. He's a fighter. So he's more focused. But it's a bit different. But the strategic direction is the same. It's Yoshida Kishi grand line, and they are following it.
Let's talk about some of the regions, especially Southeast Asia. So China and Japan both are highly engaged in Southeast Asia, so is the United States. But we see some signs that Southeast Asia perhaps tilting closer towards China with Malaysia, Thailand joining the BRICS organization. Just curious what you think Japan's role should be in Southeast Asia and as a part of the U.S.-Japan alliance, but also as an independent power.
Kuan Yin, the Buddhist god Kuan Yin, the 11 faces, right?
Yes.
That's ASEAN. It's one body, but the 10 faces and 10 brains inside. There's no one voice there. Continental ASEAN nations don't know very well maritime ASEAN nations. It's the other way around. And it's very good that they implement American style multilateral diplomacy. Big ones bully small ones. It was Central Asia before, but they just implemented our liberal system. Singapore talk on the equal footing vis-a-vis Indonesia, for example. Malaysia is a bit difficult for them, but this is ASEAN. So we have to listen to them. We have to respect they are in the driving seat of ASEAN. We have to respect that, their leadership. But when we talk to ASEAN, it's not a secretariat. We have to go to each capital, talk to them one by one. Then there's a clear distinction here. Maritime ASEAN nations are wary of China, simply because China dominates now the South China Sea. People hate that. South China Sea is not like Okhotsk. Russians sanctuarize Okhotsk, but only seals are there. Penguins, seals, and nobody cares. And Russians have big submarines there, aiming at Americans with strategic nuclear weapons. China wants to make the same thing in South China, but South China Sea is Times Square. Everybody goes there. It's a heaviest traffic and sea, and it's a bit bigger than the Mediterranean. It's a huge sea, and China said, it's mine. And excuse me, but you are wrong. Because China simply said that because South China Sea was dominated by the Empire of Japan. We are fighting for hegemony of South China Sea with French in Vietnam. And Meiji defeated French. And then soon after that, we took over whole South China Sea. It was governed by Taiwan. Taiwan was our province. That's the reason why China said it's my sea, because it's Taiwan's sea, it's my sea. They took never interest in the sea. They are continental people. But that shocked us. But they tried to militarize the South China Sea truly, maybe for military reason. They have sanctuary. They want a sanctuary for the strategic south in Hainan Islands. But it's very different from Okhotsk, and everybody's opposing against it. And Xi Jinping in Rose Garden, the White House, to said to Obama clearly, I have no intention to militarize South China Sea. Next year, he completely militarized South China Sea. And so we understood the true intention of China. They want to truly dominate South China Sea militarily, and we can let it happen. And coastal nations, so Philippines, and then Indonesia, and then Vietnam. They're very wary about Chinese ambition and unilateral actions in South China Sea. We're talking to them.
Yes.
And Thailand, a bit different. They are ethnically closer to China, and they are very good diplomats. They try to be neutral. Don't engage us. Traditionally, ASEAN got together to avoid the entanglements of Cold War, because they saw destruction of Vietnam, destruction of Cambodia. We can't accept that. They got together. So there are inclinations in neutrality. But now China is too naughty, and they are wary. And some nations, maritime ones, are coming closer to us. The Thailand is in the inlands. They have the sea claims, so they are a bit neutral. But they are very important economically. Strategically, they try to be neutral. That's them. So ASEAN it's a mosaic situation. Our strategy is to engage one. We have to engage the very big ones, Indonesia, ally of the US and Philippines. Vietnam is a communist nation, but they have common interests with us. So we power our energy into these three nations. And then Thailand is economically very important, and Malaysia too. And they're a bit smaller, but it's a great power. We have to engage in Malaysia. And we have to persuade them that their future is with us, not with China, not with dictators.
Well, you certainly see that in the Philippines with the U.S., Japan, Philippine trilaterals, the Japan-Philippines deal.
Right. Our military arrangement with the Americans. Now China says Taiwan is mine. First time in our alliance history, we are thinking seriously about defending Taiwan. But Taiwan's north is Japan, Taiwan's south is Philippines. So these three nations are frontal nations. After the Cold War is over, and U.S. is a colonial power, right? Plantations, they are just a colonial power. And leftists in Mindanao, they hate Americans. And Duterte was from there.
Yes, yes.
And he didn't hide their emotions against Americans. And he didn't like Chinese at all, but he simply had emotions that he can't swallow with the Americans. But the Aquino, Bombo Marcos, they clearly understand they are too weak to face Chinese. They need American backing up, like us. First time we are now thinking about defending Philippines against China. And this is just the beginning. And we have to talk about it. 50 years ago, Nixon, Sato talked about Taiwan. This was the last time.
Oh, really?
1969. And then we got normalization with China. And Taiwan's taboo. It was put in the pocket. Sorry for Chiang Kai-shek, but it's like that. When China started to be bullying the smaller nations in ASEAN, U.S. simply said, time is ripe. It's Trump administration, Pompeo, who said China changed. Engagement failed. We have to be prepared for the great power competition. That's Pompeo.
Yeah.
Maybe not Trump, but Pompeo. Pence, McMaster, and Pottinger. That was our thinking too. And Biden just stepped into their shoes as far as China policy is concerned. He stepped into his shoes. And big difference between Trump and Biden is Biden thinks allies are important. Trump doesn't. And so new type of cooperation started. And then the 2022, Moon Jae-in and the Suga, two leaders of Japan, Korea, were invited to the White House. And 50 years after Nixon, Sato, 50 years after, and Biden touched upon Taiwan. We have to think about it seriously. And then the big discussion started in Japan. If Taiwan will be involved, it's very different. Yeah. Korean Peninsula is okay. Korea is very strong. They can destroy North Korea easily. We should absorb some issues, but war will continue simply several weeks, and China will not join. Then the war is very quick and soon. But Taiwan is very different. There's nobody between Taiwan and us.
Yes.
It's only 100 kilometers. It's from here to Atami. It's 40 minutes in bullet train. It's very close. And we can be instantly involved. And then Abe said, Taiwan contingency is our contingency. Think about this seriously, he said. But at that time, Philippines was not yet on the table. And with Kishida, Philippines on the table. And now Biden, Kishida, Marcos are talking about it. And Aborigine from Australia joining. And we have to think about it seriously.
Yeah, so this new sort of trilateral, these lattice work agreements, and so you think this is a strategy that has some prospects of success in deterring China in the South China Sea? Or, I mean, because you mentioned Indonesia, which is...
this is not NATO.
Yeah, right.
And the big nations are Brits, French, nuclear powers, and then the Germans, great land power, Poland's great land power, and Spanish, Italian, great naval power. And in combination, nobody can match them. And they have clear responsibility and the one command line and common war plan and big secretariats for military commands. We have nothing here. No. Unilateral is just a midfield. It's not a true organization. It's very weak, but we have to do it because we have nothing. We have to do it.
So about let's return to Indonesia for a second. So Japan and Indonesia, there is an interesting level of engagement there.
Yes.
So what do you think Japan's role would be with Indonesia or other maritime states outside of the Philippines?
Indonesia is particularly important because they are very big. It's half of ASEAN.
Correct. Yes.
600 millions, and half of them are Indonesians. It's very different. It's very different languages, very different ethnic groups. But Sukarno was a great leader. He said Panchashila when he founded his nation: faith, justice, democracy, unity, and fairness. And this is like Americans. They do not share anything about, it's only these principles. Blood, culture, religion, very different. But they got united, and they have established identity based upon these liberal principles. That's the reason why Indonesia is very important. This is the new shape of sort of governance You have to be responsible, accountable for the people, and you have to get support from people. That's the reason why you can rule this nation, right? Indonesia was it's only Indonesia after the United States who made artificially nation state. This is very important. Great success. We have support them, and they are very big, very big. So they don't fear Chinese at all. And Chinese were instrumental in the Dutch rule, colonial rule. They were ruling Indonesians together with the sort of Dutch authority there. So they are not very much loved. And China tried to export communism once into Indonesia. That's invited a huge massacre in Indonesia. They're very angry. So they are not very warm against Chinese. Money is important. Chinese money is everywhere. So they are picking Chinese money on the Western side. But we have to truly persuade them. Jokowi is more economic manager. Currently, Yudhoyono was a true leader of Asia, and he said, "I am the founder of Indonesian democracy." He was very proud of it. Jokowi is more economy oriented. Prabowo, he is a soldier, but he just followed Jokowi's path. We don't know yet where he's headed for it. We want them to join, say, OECD and Western camp, and the ASEAN will surpass Japanese economic size in 10 years' time. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we have to invite them as a leader. ASEAN is bigger than Japan, and as total whole Asia will be 60% of world GDP. West is shrinking. Amazing, isn't it? US, Europe, Japan dominated the globe for 100 years or 200 years. Now we are shrinking in this way, less than 50%. 60% of world GDP will be occupied by Asia, and Indonesia is one of the leaders. China, India, Indonesia, three big ones. We have to take care of them.
China, India, Indonesia, that's correct. So what's the level of development cooperation or competition between these powers in Southeast Asia particularly? I know that Japan and China...
They are competing. Civilization-wise, there's a big cliff in Vietnam, in Hue. This is the natural demarcation line between Indian civilization and Chinese civilization. Northern Vietnam is up. It's Chinese civilization. We're a derivative of Chinese civilization. The Japan, Korea, Mongols, and some other Manchus, China, Tibet, and then the half of Vietnam. We shared Chinese writings. We shared Mahayana Buddhism, and somehow Confucius. But below there, it's Indian. Indians were always looking at the West because Rome was there, Persia was there, Turks was there, Alexander invaded. But for them, it is a long tail of India up to Indonesia. That's how they feel. Myanmar, and then the Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. It's Muslim, but still, Buddhism was there before, and Bali is very much Buddhist, Hinduist today. So the Indians, they believe the Buddhist is part of Hinduism. They believe in that way. So their natural thinking is, ASEAN, half of us, apart from Indonesia, apart from Philippines and Vietnam, it's my sphere of influence. That's natural thinking of Indians. So they are now coming in. So we have to cooperate with India to engage ASEAN nations.
So yes, cooperation with India. Let's talk about this because I think it's quite interesting for India, especially after the Russia-Ukraine war, to see how they've hedged as, for instance, buying Russian gas, but then at the same time trying to work inside of the BRICS organization while being part of the Quad. So how do you see India's placement in the coming years?
Yeah, we always ask Indians, why don't you join us, the West? And Indians' answer is very clear. We are not allied of the United States. When China attacks us, Americans don't help us. So they have to have their independence diplomacy. And that's understandable. And their thinking is this, when they got independence, Gandhi, and Nehru, and they thought they can be the leader of the third world, global south, right? And they thought China's natural ally. But China was too close to Stalin. and they invaded India several times. 1962 invasion was a very big one. Arunachal Pradesh, and Nehru got very angry, truly angry. But soon after that, 3 years after that invasion of Chinese, the Nixon went to Shanghai. He hugged Mao and he hugged Zhou Enlai. And the Indians thought, we are democracy, excuse us, but you are kissing the dictator. And they were forced to go to Moscow. And so non-alignment was there's one caveat here. They are non-alignment leader, but India must buy advanced weapons from Russia. So Russia-India was sort of close, and American and Chinese were close. This was the latter half of Cold War. We are on this side. China was our sort of quasi-ally at that time. When the Cold War is over, Xi Jinping took power. China started to take distance against the Americans. We are the leader of Asia. It's just like Imperial Japan. We are leader of Asia. No white people here. That's today's China. And Russia, they were invited to sort of the West, the G7, right? Putin was sitting with Abe-san, everybody. But Putin could not accept it because I am the sort of junior partner. G7, excuse me, I was the great power before he jumped out. He made a big mistake. He invaded Ukraine. And he has to go to Xi Jinping. And they don't trust each other at all. But Putin needs China. But China is half West. Because China needs Western market and money and technology. They can't go and sync with Putin. It's half-hearted support to Putin, but Putin desperately needs China. This is where we are. So what happened is India, excuse us, but India needed Russia because of China. Now Putin is grabbing the knees of Xi Jinping, so Modi is coming towards us. It's very natural. But they cannot cut off Russia simply because they are neighbors of Russia and China. They can't face the two. It's just like us. So they have to take care of Russians. And oil and gas, we complain the Indians buy oil and gas, but it is our choice. Russia occupies 30% of production of the export of gas and oil to the world market. If we completely screw them out, gas prices skyrockets. We couldn't accept that. So we shut half eyes and say maybe Chinese and Indians and maybe Turks and Iranians can buy Russia with reduced price. And that mitigates the tension of energy markets. And we thought it's our interest. So you can do it. So this is where they are. But it is very clear, Americans, Europeans, Japanese, Koreans, and Australians, and we are outside the big continent. Inside the continent, there are three powers that we cannot control. It's Russia, China, and India. Iran is but smaller. And every time the West used one to defeat Hitler, Stalin was used. To destroy Soviet Union, Mao was instrumental. Now Russia and China are coming closer and facing the West as our opponent. We must engage India. And India is a born democracy. It's not like Mao. We thought China can be democracy one day. And Hu Yaobao, he was saying that to our Prime Minister Nakasone. China might be democracy one day. Help us. And so we poured huge amount of money into China, and they became very different. We are betrayed. But I don't think Modi will be like that. That's a nation founded by Gandhi. So from the beginning, they do share values with us. It's just like Indonesia. So we have to engage India, Indonesia on our side. Then we can be a winner of this big competition.
Yes, India, Indonesia. So, but as you mentioned, China, Russia, India, three big powers giant powers in Asia that can't necessarily be controlled by the West or its allies.
Yeah, but they never get together, three.
So what do you think about BRICS? Do you think it's a sustainable entity? Will it ever create a payment system or a trade platform that rivals the SWIFT system?
I don't think so. The currency, it must be the most used currency easily. The most easily it's dollar. It's so easy to use dollar. You can pay dollar in Moscow. It's but then you can never use ruble in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And dollar is the strongest. Half of the currency worldwide is dollar. 30% euro. Euro is very strong. 5% yen. And the yuan, China, renminbi was 1%, but now they're close to us 5%, simply because Russia cannot use dollar. They use yuan. That's the reason why yuan became more important, but it's only between Russia and China. Worldwide, it's dollar, and then euro and yen. We dominate. Western currency dominates the world's payment system. And this is where we are. The Brazilian currency, lira, ruble, Russia, and China, yuan, and then India, rupee. Do they dominate world currency payment system? They can never do that. They can never do that. And India have two legs, West and BRICS. They want to join G7, of course. They are always in the outreach of G7, but they want to be a full regular member. And I am telling to the Americans, never dream that India will be like us. We are like Great Britain. We are the junior partner of the United States. India is a hyper-sized France. It's very difficult. But we need the new leadership. The Americans should be ready to share leadership with somebody else. It's much better than P5.
Yeah.
P5 is a joke now. Putin invaded Ukraine. China is unilaterally changing the status quo. They are destroying the world order, and they say we are policemen of the world. P5 has no authority at all now. We need a new leadership here. P5 must be expanded, and G7 must be expanded. It's cumbersome and it's time consuming. It's very frustrating to engage Indians, but we have to do that. India, Indonesia, we have to be ready to accept their leadership.
And I remember you had mentioned not just India, Indonesia, but Brazil also as another BRICS power, but one that you think that the United States and Japan should more heavily engage.
Brazil, I think they have full capacity to join the leadership. Their problem is U.S. is too close to them. They hate Americans because of the closeness. It's not ideological thing at all. Anti-U.S. is their value, right? So they join China, but I think Brazil must be ready to accept the leadership of this free world. They are inside the free world.
And so let's turn now to Central Asia. So next week, Kishida will go to have the important Central Asian summit. China just had a summit in Central Asia, and it is such a geopolitically significant area. It's been fought over for hundreds of years, but it's between China, Russia, India, Europe. What's the significance for Japan of Central Asia?
Central Asia, one, they are the same blood. We are born there, Japanese. Japanese, Koreans, Manchus, Mongols, and the Turks. Turks in Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan. Tajikistan, they're Iranians, they're a bit different. And then Azerbaijan, Turks, we are the same blood. And then Myanmar, Tibet. We are horse riders. We became fishermen in the end, but they are horse riders. And they're very close to us. Physically, Kyrgyzstan looks like Japanese completely. And Kyrgyzstan says the first brother, eldest brother, loved the fish. So they became Japanese. Second brother, they're a very strong fighter. They became Turks and destroyed Rome, the Eastern Rome. Now, the youngest brother, we ate horses, so we stayed here. That's what they say. That's what they say. That's a Kyrgyzstan joke. And they truly believe that we're the same blood. And we are truly akin to them. But when I help them, and they are Muslim people, a lot of them, and they don't like Russians, but Russia controls them. It's still a colonies of Russia. They want to be independent from Russia. It's impossible. They penetrated everywhere, Russians. The SVR, the interior ministry people, they are everywhere. They can't get rid of the yoke of Russia. It's impossible. Chinese money is going in. Nazarbayev was the long-standing leader.
Yes.
He was ousted, but he still remained big power, and he was gradually marginalized. And the new leader took hands of China, and then Russia came in. I'm sorry, China took hands of Nazarbayev, the older leader, and Russia came in, he kicked him out. And this can easily happen. But China and Russia is now competing, influencing the Central Asia. They don't like it because they became successful because they invited French money technology to produce good wine, and they're happy to cooperate with the West. They are the sort of the moats between Russia and China, and they don't like it. But they're too far away, so we can't help them strategically. Fighting a war against Russia, China, there is impossible for us. So we can help them only economically and politically, but we should encourage them. They were, sorry to say, but they were conquered by Tsarist Russia, 19th century. Kazakhstan population 30% Russians, but still they still retain their identity. They want to join us, so we have to help them. But what we can do is blow in the Western air into that inner land. This is only what we can do, but we have to show them we are with you.
Yeah, there's according to press reports, one of Japan's objectives there would be to help facilitate this kind of Caspian Sea pipeline in order to get oil.
Yeah, what we can do is sort of infrastructure, these things. When I was in the government, our plan was to connect them with the West, because they are sandwiched by Russia and China, and they are competing for influence for these five nations, right? And Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, the pipeline was very quickly built to import gas and oil from them simply because they fear Malacca Strait will be shut by the American Navy in Taiwan contingency. So they're expanding a network inland. We don't understand that, that's fine. But Chinese problem is it's egoistic. It's only China and Turkmenistan, China and Kazakhstan. Our thinking is incorporate them in the free market. So connect them with everywhere. Russia wanted to connect them. The monopoly of Central Asian gas oil was Russian Soviet strategy, right? And China came in, and we said, let's export that to the Europeans. They need your gas and oil, and Russia is very angry. China is not very happy, and Iranians are still here. It's not the easy part too, but connect them with the West, and it's not easy. Caspian Sea is sandwiched by Iran and Russia, and Azerbaijan buy my gas. They say. So it's not easy sea to go through, but help them. And some goes to Turkey, so do that. And if Pakistan is okay and Afghanistan is okay and Iranians are okay, we can put pipeline there to the Arabian Sea.
Yes.
So to connect them with the outer world, then we can help them. Money goes in. They can change. They need us more. This is what we think.
Okay, so to follow up, let's close with one of the most interesting probably topics that's going on in Japan, which is the dynamics of the U.S. presidential election, what it might hold for U.S. foreign policy, and how Japan sees a Trump or a Harris presidency. If such an assessment can be made this early on.
We know Trump because Abe-san was alive. When Abe-san was alive, he is the closest friend of Trump.
Yes.
And we are very lucky. And every European leader, when they talk to Abe in a small room, private conversation, how'd you do that? No European leader could be close to Trump. Abe was successful. We are very lucky, but we have no longer Abe. So we'll be treated like Europeans, one of the allies. And Trump's problem is, his good part is he understood the importance of facing China. So Mattis, Pompeo, Pence, McMaster, Bolton, Pottinger, they were China hawks. They changed the sheer engagement policy. Engagement is okay, but we have to face them. Otherwise, they can have their day. So that's a big change. And this was inherited by Biden. That Blinken is different. He says allies are important.
No.
To face China, we need allies. Not only Asian allies, Japan, Australia, Korea, but also Europeans. to face whole continents. That's Blinken,
Mhm.
and we are very thankful to him.
They say that in
So
the
but the Trump will not think that is important. So we have to make Trump understand the importance of allies. Otherwise, you have to fight alone. And if Kamala Harris takes over, I think the Biden team will remain, because she has no true team. And suddenly she picked up the president's post, then she will keep a large part of the Biden team. So continuation will be okay.
Some of the analysts see in the last couple months of the Biden administration an attempt to sort of Trump-proof the alliances in with NATO or with Ukraine.
Trump-proof?
Yeah, Trump-proof. In other words, to create
I don't think Trump can destroy everything. Nobody's Trump-proof.
So that's mainly an argument made for Ukraine funding, NATO, this kind of thing. But what do you think about the minilateral policies, IPEF in Indo-Pacific? You don't think that there can be such a Trump-proofing?
I don't think he understands it. He is oriented for big powers. Big powers deal making. That's him.
Okay, very interesting. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. So once again, we were really happy to be joined by Kanehara-san. He's now executive director at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, so you can find his work there. Kanehara-san, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
全面的な改革っていうことはおそらく終わりがない改革だと思うんですね。それをわざわざ29年までいわゆる中国の建国80周年までにやるということはやはり別のメッセージがそこに込められていた